we will overcome.
More than a week since many of the Texas House Democratic delegation huddled outside the U.S. Capitol, none wearing masks, none social distancing. They have even more to overcome. A sixth member, Donna Howard of Austin, has now tested positive for the Delta variant. Their intended message of voting rights now muted by their contagiousness. Though now quarantined in D.C., their visits with the administration and congressional staffers may have spread the virus to at least one administration and one congressional staffer, probably more.
Let me confirm that yesterday, a fully vaccinated White House official tested positive for COVID-19 off campus. In accordance with our rigorous COVID-19 protocols, the official remains off campus as they wait for a confirmatory PCR test. The White House Medical Unit has conducted contact tracing interviews and determined no close contacts among White House principals or staff.
The contrast could not be more stark. In 2020, the Trump White House was savaged in the press for the Rose Garden swearing in of Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett. No less than Anthony Fauci termed it a super spreader event. Typical of the coverage was Rolling Stone's characterization, quote, President Trump dangerously called on his supporters to gather on the south lawn of the White House on Saturday to hear him deliver hateful remarks directed at his political opponents. On Tuesday, Fox News reporter Peter Doocy asked whether the Texas delegation trip was a super spreader event.
More than 10% of the traveling party with these Texas Democrats now claim to have a breakthrough case. Is there any concern that this trip that was intended to advocate for voting rights is now a super spreader event in Washington?
Well, I would say that's not a characterization we're making from here. We certainly understand there will be breakthrough cases. Even vaccines that are incredibly effective are not foolproof. They're not 100% effective. We've seen that. Here's the good news, though. We know that these vaccines, that these individuals, I think, if I'm correct, have been vaccinated. It means that it protects from death. It protects from serious illness. It protects, for the most part, from hospitalization. So that is a good sign.
The far-left Daily Kos characterized the exchange in a headline. Fox News hacks gotcha question for Jen Psaki proves he doesn't know what super spreader means. Neither the Daily Kos nor Jen Psaki made mention of what's happening at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue. But Wednesday morning, Axios did, quote, the phones for Axios reporters blew up with congressional aides saying the problem is even more widespread on the Hill. The Office of Attending Physician sending letters to members Tuesday afternoon, confirming several vaccinated congressional staff members and one member of Congress have acquired infection in this circumstance. What is clear is that the vaccines, developed in record time under the Trump administration, are dramatically minimizing the severity of infections. But now, rather than simply report positivity rates, more media outlets are noting that distinction under the new administration. The Austin Statesman, for example, reported that State Rep. Howard of Austin, the sixth reported case, is basically asymptomatic and plans to isolate. While the Texas delegation waits the infection out, their return to Texas presents another unpleasantry. Republican Governor Greg Abbott is sticking to his vow to have them arrested upon their return. Texas Democrats say it's worth it.
Today we're here about something much more important, and that is the infrastructure of democracy, about broken voting rights. These courageous colleagues chose not to be accomplices by sitting at their desk and being steamrollered in Austin. It took courage to do what they're doing.
He's right about broken voting rights, but critics say not in the way he meant it. The quarantine delegation were elected to sit at their desks and to vote, not to flee when democracy, when the will of the people, places them in the minority, lacking the votes to block legislation that they object to. To escape that responsibility is to threaten representative democracy. Doug McKelway for the Washington Examiner.